creamy, hearty, tucked under a golden puff pastry lid that shatters when you spoon into it. When I was little, the only time I had a chicken pot pie was when I visited my friend and her mom would buy the most delicious TV dinners. But what if I said making it at home is a lot easier than you may think, with the ingredient source closer than you think? Hello shepherds, welcome back. And if you're new here, hello! This is where we talk all things sheepy. My name's Megan, and since we had several roosters hit puberty all at once, sometimes the chickens work out a system. This time, a few roosters didn't, so let's start with our main filling. I'm boiling the legs in the seasoned water until cooked through. And because these are heritage yard chickens, there's not as much meat as you'd get from store-bought. So if you like it meaty, add more chicken. I'm boiling some extra legs so I can pop a dish together later on in the week on those really tired days. And once our legs are cooked, we want to set it aside to cool and begin prepping the rest of our filling. With backyard chickens, they run around. They're often older than the store-bought chickens, so often the dark meat is incredibly brown as well, and tougher than the younger, 6 to 8 week old chicks that you find in the store. Flavor-wise, it's top-notch though, and by gently cooking our tougher and older cuts of meat, it'll end up buttery soft in our dish. Also, we're going to reserve our water and make some seasoned broth for our dish later on. So I'm going to continue on boiling our broth and reducing it down further. For this recipe, we're also going to need a puff pastry, thawed. I posted a video on how to make it with your sheep's butter earlier. I'll link it below too, so I won't show you how to do the puff pastry here. But let's go ahead and start by preheating our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 205 degrees Celsius. Next, let's dice up our filling. It's a pretty simple filling and can change with the seasons. So for today, I'm using the classic carrot, onion, garlic, and celery blend. Adding our veggies to a hot pan. My pan's still warming up, but that's fine. It'll start sizzling soon. To add some extra body in our pot pie, I'm leaning into our almost thumb-sized nub of Ricotta Salata. Grating it out comes to around 1/4 of a cup, but if you don't have any aged ricotta, Parmesan works really well too as a substitute. Okay, I'm setting our cheese aside for now and bounce around between each of the prep spots. I like the dry saute as the veggies cook. They'll release their moisture and the cast iron is well seasoned. So combined with the veggie moisture releasing and a well seasoned pan, I'm not worried about sticking. Even so, some folks like a little pat of butter. Butter gives that extra flavor, so if you want to add some butter or your preferred oil, add it to the pan when it's heating up. We're going to add our flavor in multiple layers, so when we finally dig in, it'll be like an explosion of flavor. So if you've ever had a bland pot pie, this is for you. This is a pretty simple dish, and I find the biggest hurdle really is all the dicing, the shredding, and all the prep work. So if you want to make everything ahead of time and then pop it all together just before cooking, you can. Now that our chicken is cooled enough to touch, let's go ahead and shred and dice our meat. The pan's came pretty full of veggies, so I don't think I'll need that much chicken to feed everyone. So I'm just using one leg for today's dish, and the tendons and bones are going to go back into our tray to roast in the oven till browned. And then we're going to add our roasted bones back to our stock pot later on to really add that extra boost of flavor to our stock that we have going. The extra chicken is going to go back into the fridge, and we're going to set our diced chicken aside for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our roux and toss our flour into our pan of cooked veggies, stirring often. We want our veggies well coated and moving around. This will not only thicken our filling, but also cook off all that flour taste. After about a minute, the flour may begin to stick to the bottom of the skillet, and then let's go ahead and add some more flavor. So half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of thyme, and half a teaspoon of basil. For acidity, I'm adding in a splash of balsamic vinegar. If you have lemon juice or another vinegar, that works too. For umami, or that extra pop of mysterious flavor, I like to lean into a few secret ingredients. Today, it's Brunost. It has a savory, almost caramel-like flavor, and it's one of those ingredients that really adds that hint of mystery but zing. I keep a jar of it in the fridge and some extra in the freezer, and then rotate as needed. Okay, so let's stir all that in and add in our stock. I tend to run drier, but if you want a creamier, soupier middle, add more stock, or even a dash of cream. I'm leaning into that robustness of our stock and our grated cheese to give that extra body. We're stirring everything in well and scraping the bottom of the pan, lifting up all those caramelized bits into our sauce. Our grated sheepy cheese will melt into the sauce as we're stirring, and then let's go ahead and toss in our reserved chicken. Stirring it all around. Do you see how our sauce is starting to thicken up? After about a minute, let's turn off our heat and roll out our puff pastry onto a lightly floured surface. I'm rolling it out to fit the pan and then gently placing the puff pastry on top of our chicken, mixed in the cast iron. It's still pretty hot and the steam's softening our puff pastry already. So working quickly, I'm tucking in that extra pastry underneath and brushing the top with an egg wash. Poking some slits into the top to allow the steam to escape, and then off to the oven to bake for about 20 minutes or until golden brown. Don't forget to place your cast iron onto a sheet pan just in case you have any filling bubbling over. This will just help with the cleanup later on. Okay, so our rooster pot pie is ready now. So let's go ahead and pull it out and have a snack. It smells so good, and the house is pretty cold right now. It really is best to wait for the pie to chill for a few minutes before serving, but I really could use a warm dish right now. I love how bubbly it is, and the house is filled with the smell of herbs and butter, and you know that smell that fills a bakery? It's like that, and then there's this creamy center right here. It's creamy, and it's more like a stewed center. You can see bits of rooster and onions and carrots and celery. And now for my favorite part. Let's go ahead and dig in. I like an equalish puff pastry to filling ratio in each bite, and the texture of the puff pastry contrasts really well with those softer filling bits of the chicken and onion. It's full of umami, and there's almost this roast mushroom-like quality to the filling. I think it's due to the combination of the robust balsamic vinegar mixed with that earthiness from the sheep's cheeses. And one of the fun things too is how easy it is to change this up to match each season. If you try this, I'd love to hear about it. And for storage, it stores well in the fridge for a couple of days. The main thing is that when reheating it, it really retains its crispiness better in the oven than the microwave. And there you have it. If you've made it this far, leave me a pie emoji and an extra special thank you. I appreciate you. If you've enjoyed diving into the sheepy side of the dairy world, hit that subscribe button and the bell where we explore a sheep-focused lifestyle every week. And until next time, ta-tas. Mama. Mama.